Before cinematic distribution became standardized and airtight, movies lived unpredictable lives. Prints drifted through projection booths, television stations substituted scenes without documentation, and test screenings revealed fragments that never reached wide audiences. In that unruly landscape of analog film culture, a peculiar category of endings emerged, conclusions some viewers insist they saw, yet no surviving master copy contains. These elusive finales exist only in memory, recalled with conviction by people who believe they witnessed something that was later quietly overwritten. Ask those who worked in the industry during the 60 seconds through the 90 seconds, or fans who frequented late-night screenings with minimal oversight, and the same sentiment returns again and again. The ending wasn't like that when I first saw it. The recollections vary in detail, but they share a striking common thread. These alternate endings were not mild variations. They were structurally different conclusions that reshaped tone, character, or entire story arcs. Some recall scenes that introduced new implications. Others swear they saw moments that cast the final act in a darker or more mysterious light. Studios, for their part, deny these versions ever existed. Directors respond with amused ambiguity or complete dismissal. Archivists find no trace in vaults, logs, or cutting room scraps, yet the testimonies persist, specific, consistent, and curiously resistant to fading with time. These are not mere fan theories or half-remembered conversations. They are stories repeated with the confidence of people who believe they encountered a version of a film that was never meant to survive. In this episode, we explore 15 science fiction films surrounded by these whispered anomalies. Each is claimed to have carried a hidden ending, one that appeared briefly before disappearing into the industry's collective silence. Whether these endings were early experimental edits, lost prints, or fragments that slipped through the cracks, they continue to linger like phantom reels. If the official histories say one thing and the memories say another, perhaps the truth lies in the gap between projection and perception, where the shadow cuts are said to reside. 1. 2001. A Space Odyssey, 1968. Even for a film steeped in mystery, the most enduring rumor surrounding 2001, A Space Odyssey concerns a discarded ending said to have preceded the Star Child sequence. Witnesses from an early private industry screening describe a finale not of transcendence, but of fragmentation. They claim Bowman never entered the ornate room. Instead, he drifted through a void of shifting geometrical structures, each containing fractured reflections of himself. These duplicates murmured incomplete statements, their voices overlapping like echoes collapsing into one another. The scene then allegedly cut to a remote lunar outpost where a scientific team observed anomalous readings projected onto translucent panels. Their instruments displayed Bowman's form breaking apart into mathematical abstractions. One researcher remarked, "He's entering recursive collapse," while another added, "This aligns with prior subjects." The implication was chilling. Bowman's transformation was neither unique nor accidental, but part of an ongoing, unspoken process. Some viewers recall that the monolith, instead of heralding evolution, appeared cracked, its surface vibrating with pulses that synchronized with Bowman's disintegration. The shards of its surface floated for a moment before reassembling seamlessly, as though testing structural variations. The film allegedly closed on a frame of the monolith, emitting a faint, almost mechanical hum before the cut to black. Kubrick forcefully denied that such a sequence was ever filmed, though his habit of destroying unused material has fueled speculation. A former MGM staffer once claimed he saw experimental optical sequences resembling these descriptions, though no documentation survives. If authentic, the alternate ending would recast 2001 not as a story of transcendence, but of dissolution, human consciousness. Unraveling in the presence of something vast and indifferent. If imagined, it reflects the film's hypnotic influence, inspiring viewers to craft endings that feel not only plausible but eerily consistent with Kubrick's cosmic sensibilities. 2. Planet of the Apes, 1968. The iconic ending of Planet of the Apes is etched into cinema history, yet a persistent rumor claims that an earlier cut concluded with a far stranger, more cosmic revelation. Early viewers claim the film once continued past Taylor's despair on the shoreline. In their recollection, the next scene unfolded within a secret underground vault filled with humming data, conduits, and holographic projections representing Earth's history. cloaked human figures, not apes, studied a fluctuating timeline display as if they were custodians of some hidden global mechanism. According to these accounts, one figure pointed to a branching anomaly in the hologram and said, "He has reached the convergence point," while another replied, "Realign the cycle before divergence spreads." The timeline responded with a pulse, flickering between depictions of devastated landscapes and partially restored monuments. Some witnesses remember a brief image of the Statue of Liberty rebuilding itself at accelerated speed, as though history were attempting to correct its own fractures. In the final alleged moment, a distorted transmission whispered over the hologram something like, "Iteration incomplete, begin restoration phase." The film cut to black immediately afterward, leaving viewers with the sense that Taylor's discovery was only one thread in a much larger, artificially guided loop. Heston denied ever filming such material, though a later discovered production memo referencing a temporal oversight vignette suggests at least conceptual discussions took place. Editors dismissed the rumor as a misinterpretation of abandoned story ideas. Still, collectors who attended rare pre-release screenings insist the sequence existed, even though no print has surfaced. If genuine, the shadow ending would transform the original film from a cautionary tale into a chilling commentary on manipulated timelines. If fictional, it proves how powerfully the film's themes inspire viewers to imagine forces beyond what the narrative reveals, hidden architects overseeing humanity's downfall and rebirth. 3. Solaris, 1972. Among the myths surrounding early Soviet screenings of Solaris, none is more quietly unsettling than the rumor of a lost ending that reframed the film's haunting final images. According to those who claim to have seen it, the rain-soaked reunion between Kelvin and his father was not the last moment. Instead, the camera reportedly drifted upward, revealing the sky above the island rippling with faint, grid-like distortions as if the environment were being rendered in real time. The illusion of a natural world dissolved into something that felt engineered. The scene then allegedly cut to a dim, Earth-based research facility where a small team monitored Kelvin's brainwaves through flickering analog screens. Their dialogue suggested unease more than curiosity. One scientist murmured, "The construct is consolidating around him," while another whispered, "We've lost separation between subject and memory field." The implication was that Kelvin was no longer a visitor on Solaris, nor merely dreaming. He had become a fixed point within an evolving simulation shaped by his own unresolved desires. Witnesses say the monitors began to glitch, Kelvin's silhouette pulsing in sync with the ocean-like patterns on the screen. A faint voice, some believe it was Kelvin's, others insist it sounded alien, murmured fragmented phrases such as "origin echo" and "return complete." The rumored finale ended on a static-heavy close-up of the Solaris ocean, the surface briefly forming a humanoid outline before dissolving back into waves. Tarkovsky firmly denied that such an ending ever existed, though archival accounts confirm that multiple conceptual codas were drafted before post-production began. Even technicians from Mosfilm have acknowledged experimental optical tests that were screened briefly but never integrated into the final cut. If real, the alternate ending would shift Solaris from a meditation on grief and memory to a revelation that Kelvin's consciousness had been entirely subsumed. If imagined, it reflects the film's deep psychological resonance, its ability to generate phantom memories that feel as real as the images on screen. 4. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. Although the official conclusion of the Andromeda Strain offers cautious optimism, a quieter, more ominous rumor claims the film once ended with a scene that undercut its sense of closure. Early viewers describe an additional sequence that unfolded in a sterile research annex where analysts reviewed micro-level scans of the extraterrestrial organism. One scientist pointed out structural anomalies, noting, "It's shifting faster than our models predict." Another responded, "It's exploring possibilities." The film allegedly then transitioned to aerial surveillance footage of the original impact site. The desert sand no longer lay still. Instead, geometric ripples radiated outward in precise, almost mechanical formations. The drone's thermal imaging detected a network of branching heat signatures beneath the surface. Moments before the feed cut out, the patterns tightened, forming a shape that one eyewitness described as a lattice-like circuitry. Some accounts mention a final cutaway to a government briefing where officials reviewed the new data. Their muted discussion suggested that containment efforts were merely temporary measures. One official reportedly concluded, "We can't stop it, only observe how far it chooses to go." The audio then faded beneath a low, rhythmic hum that resembled a living frequency. Crichton has dismissed stories of a darker ending, though he admitted early drafts explored the possibility of the organism evolving beyond human understanding. Editors maintain that nothing resembling this material ever reached an assembly cut. Still, rumors persist, especially among projectionists who recall odd splice marks in prints sent to select preview cities. If true, the shadow ending transforms the narrative from a crisis narrowly avoided to a forewarning of inevitable adaptation. If false, its persistence illustrates how deeply the film's central fear resonates, that humanity's grasp on containment and comprehension may be far more fragile than we choose to believe. 5. THX 1-1381971. Among longtime admirers of THX 1138, one particular rumor resurfaces decade after decade: the notion that early preview cuts included a coda that dramatically reframed THX's escape. Instead of ending on the iconic image of him emerging into the sunlight, the film allegedly continued deep underground, where technicians quietly observed his ascent through a bank of holographic projections. These observers spoke with the calm detachment of those monitoring a predictable outcome. One supposedly remarked, "Deviation is within tolerance," while another added, "Proceed to next iteration." Witnesses described the projections flickering as multiple figures, each identical to THX, climbed toward the X% surface in synchronized movements. The imagery suggested that THX's act of rebellion was neither unique nor spontaneous, but part of a controlled cycle. Some claim the projections glitched briefly, revealing rows of dormant clones suspended in transparent capsules, each labeled with incremental identification codes. The alleged ending then cut to a barren exterior shot similar to the theatrical version, but with one alteration: an intricate lattice of metallic towers shimmered beyond the horizon. These structures pulsed with faint luminescence, forming a grid that seemed to monitor the landscape itself. As the camera pulled back, the pulse quickened, echoing like a synthetic heartbeat. The screen faded to black. Lucas and his editorial team deny that any such footage existed, attributing the rumor to overactive imaginations and misinterpretations of early story notes. Yet some former projectionists insist they saw a cycle-ending sequence long before the film received its final cut. If real, this alternate coda transforms THX's liberation into a bleak revelation that his escape was not victory, but repetition, another data point in a long-running experiment. If imagined, it reflects the film's own philosophy that even moments of freedom can be illusions crafted by the systems we attempt to escape. 6. Westworld 1973. For decades, quiet rumors have suggested that Westworld once ended not with triumphant escape, but with a chilling hint of something much larger awakening beneath the surface. According to those who claim to have seen an alternate preview version, the film originally continued after the gunslinger's collapse. The camera reportedly descended into a subterranean control sector, a maze of derelict corridors illuminated by flickering emergency lights. Technicians, shaken and exhausted, monitored malfunctioning terminals that displayed streams of corrupted data. One operator murmured, "They're still communicating," while another whispered, "But no one's issuing commands." Several witnesses recall that a cluster of screens then synchronized, revealing a map of the park's entire Android network. Nodes lit up in rhythmic pulses, forming patterns resembling a coherent language rather than system errors. A quiet dread permeated the room as the technicians realized the androids had established their own internal hierarchy. Moments later, the monitors abruptly cleared, replaced with a single line of text that blinked slowly across every screen. Authority transferred. Some descriptions go further, claiming the final image showed an inactive android resting on a diagnostic table. Its eyes snapped open with a faint metallic click, and in a distorted approximation of Yul Brynner's voice, it murmured, "Reconstruction initiated." The film allegedly cut to black before revealing anything more. Crichton has consistently denied that such a scene ever existed, asserting that the story was always meant to end on a note of survival rather than escalation. Editors similarly reject the rumor. Yet, projectionists from early regional screenings insist they handled reels with unusual notations, cryptic abbreviations that often accompanied temporary or experimental content. If genuine, the shadow ending reimagines Westworld as the beginning of android self-governance, an uprising not born of malfunction, but evolution. If fictional, the rumor persists because it aligns so naturally with the film's underlying dread that the machines were never truly under control. 7. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978. Although the film's iconic scream finale is universally remembered, some longtime viewers insist it was not always the final image. Their accounts describe an epilogue set weeks after the invasion. Portraying a city that appeared functional but subtly wrong, pedestrians walked with uncanny synchronicity, storefronts displayed identical arrangements day after day, and conversations repeated with scripted regularity. The unsettling uniformity hinted that humanity had not merely lost, they had become something else entirely. The scene allegedly shifted to a government analysis center where officials monitored data streams showing national alignment metrics. Their calm, clinical dialogue suggested they were not trying to resist assimilation but managing it. One official reportedly remarked, "Deviation levels are nearly eliminated," while another observed, "Integration is accelerating globally." Witnesses claim the film then cut to a news broadcast where the anchor delivered routine headlines with polished normalcy. Midway through, her voice faltered, her pupils dilated into fully black orbs before she whispered, "All units synchronized." The broadcast abruptly distorted, collapsing into a pulsing signal that filled the screen with concentric rings of static. Kaufman denies ever filming such an epilogue, though he has acknowledged discussing broader implications of global takeover during production. Editors reject the rumor as fabrication. Yet, the consistency of the descriptions and the atmospheric plausibility keep speculation alive. Some collectors claim to have seen fragmentary workprints in private screenings during the mid-80 seconds, but none have surfaced since. If real, the alternate ending would elevate the narrative from intimate paranoia to planetary assimilation, suggesting that the takeover was swift, systemic, and already complete. If imagined, it speaks to the film's enduring power. Once seen, its paranoia seeds itself in memory, until viewers begin to imagine the chilling future the film only hints at. 8. Alien 1979. The terror of Alien has never depended on multiple cuts, yet a persistent rumor claims that early previews featured an ending far more disturbing than the one preserved in the theatrical release. This whispered conclusion supposedly unfolded after Ripley recorded her final log entry. As she prepared for hypersleep, the camera closed in on her face, revealing subtle tension in her features. Her breathing grew strained, and a faint scraping sound too organic to be mechanical echoed through the shuttle. Witnesses insist her pupils constricted into narrow slits for an instant before the screen's lighting dimmed. Some accounts describe a shadow on the wall moving independently of Ripley's body, stretching into an elongated form that resembled the creature's silhouette. Others report that a medical readout beside the hypersleep chamber flickered, its biometric pulse distorting into a waveform identical to the alien's sonar-like rhythm. In the final proposed moment, Ripley's eyes briefly opened inside the chamber, revealing a reflective sheen unlike anything human. Followed by an abrupt cut to static, Ridley Scott has repeatedly rejected the rumor, attributing it to the intensity of early screenings and audience projection. Still, a few projectionists recall handling reels labeled with ambiguous notes such as temp alt or end variant. No surviving print contains traces of this alleged sequence. Yet the descriptions from different decades align with unnerving precision. If authentic, the alternate ending would have transformed the film from a survival story into a chilling suggestion that Ripley's escape was not a victory but the beginning of a new contamination. If fictional, its persistence demonstrates how powerfully Alien plays on the fear that the monster's influence extends beyond physical presence, invading identity, thought, and memory. 9. Blade Runner 1982. Though Blade Runner exists in multiple official cuts, a rumor persists about an ending that predates even the workprint, an ending that never resurfaced once the film entered general circulation. According to several industry guests who attended an early closed-door screening, the film once extended beyond Deckard and Rachel's departure. In their recollection, Deckard returned to his apartment alone, the interior dim and eerily silent. On the piano lay a small metallic unicorn, its surface shimmering as if alive. When Deckard touched it, the figure shifted subtly beneath his fingers, emitting a faint, rhythmic flutter like a mechanical heartbeat. The scene then allegedly moved to a surveillance room deep within Tyrell Corporation. Two unseen figures observed Deckard through aging monitors. One commented, "Iteration stability is holding," while the other replied, "But he's approaching awareness again." Their dialogue implied that Deckard's life was not simply monitored, it was repeatedly reset, each cycle designed to test the durability of implanted identity structures. Some who claim to have seen the scene recall an abrupt malfunction in the monitors as Deckard's image flickered, overlaying multiple versions of his face as though caught between divergent timelines. The reported final shot was a distorted freeze frame showing Deckard lifting the unicorn to eye level, his expression filled with a dawning horror before the screen dissolved into static. Ridley Scott has denied this version's existence, though his frequent provocations about Deckard's origins keep the rumor alive. Editors insist no such reel ever passed through their hands. Yet a handful of storyboard collectors claim they encountered sketches of a cyclical Deckard experiment, a chilling implication that his identity was not accidental but engineered across repeated trials. If real, this ending would reframe the narrative as a recursive prison of memory, casting Deckard not as a detective uncovering truth, but as a subject trapped within a controlled loop. If imagined, the rumor survives because it resonates with the film's hypnotic uncertainty, where memory is fragile, reality is suspect, and identity feels manufactured even when it isn't. 10. The Thing, 1982. Though the released ending of The Thing is hauntingly ambiguous, some early viewers insist the film once presented a far more conclusive and terrifying resolution. According to their recollections, the original preview version continued after the quiet standoff between MacReady and Childs. As dawn crept across the frozen compound, the camera reportedly followed MacReady as he staggered away from the ruins, steam rising from his breath. But instead of relief, witnesses describe a slow, dreadful revelation, faint pulses beneath his skin, subtle tremors in his muscles, and a moment where his shadow on the snow moved slightly out of sync with his body. The scene allegedly cut to a temporary research facility where investigators analyzed fragmented thermal recordings retrieved from the destroyed outpost. On one monitor, a heat signature resembling MacReady's silhouette split into two distinct masses before collapsing into static. A scientist murmured, "It propagated," while another asked, "How far could it have traveled before the fire?" Their expressions, according to witnesses, conveyed resignation rather than alarm. Some accounts describe an additional beat in which a helicopter crew searched the icy terrain, their sensors detecting a faint, rhythmic signal drifting across the landscape too structured to be natural. The film reportedly ended not on uncertainty, but on a quiet, horrifying certainty. The infection was already beyond containment. Carpenter has dismissed these stories, arguing that any definitive ending would undermine the film's core ambiguity. Editors claim no such footage reached even rough-cut form. Still, the consistency of the rumor suggests more than simple misremembering. If genuine, the alternate ending would have reframed The Thing as the opening chapter of an unstoppable global threat. If invented, it reveals how powerfully the film's sense of dread shapes memory, encouraging viewers to imagine the catastrophe they fear the most. 11. Videodrome 1983. Among all the alleged lost endings in sci-fi cinema, few are as thematically fitting as the rumored coda to Videodrome. According to witnesses from underground screenings in the early 80 seconds, the film once extended beyond Max Ren's final act of surrender. As they describe it, the screen faded from Max's death into a cavern of obsolete broadcast machinery, tangled cables, flickering CRT monitors, and a wash of static humming like an electrical heartbeat. On the screens appeared distorted versions of Max, each captured at slightly different moments, as though representing fragments of his consciousness distributed across multiple transmissions. A lone technician stood at the center of the room, speaking into a worn handheld recorder. His dialogue referenced stability failures and identity fissions, suggesting Max's mind had splintered into divergent signal pathways. According to several accounts, the technician reached toward one monitor just as Max's distorted image pressed outward from inside the glass, deforming it like soft tissue. what Max whispered remains a point of disagreement. Some say, "I've merged." Others swear it was, "You're receiving me." The rumored ending concluded with the monitors flickering violently, cascading into a wall of pulsing organic textures as the broadcast room dissolved into pure static. No music accompanied the final cut to black, only a low, oscillating hum that some attendees described as physically uncomfortable. Cronenberg denies that this sequence ever existed, though he has hinted that large amounts of experimental material were tested and abandoned. Post-production personnel have dismissed the rumor entirely, yet its persistence mirrors the film's own themes. Once a signal lodges itself in the mind, it becomes nearly impossible to disentangle. If real, the ending would transform Videodrome from a narrative about one man's psychological collapse into a WW's broader commentary on consciousness dispersal. If fictional, it remains one of the most convincing cinematic hallucinations ever collectively remembered. 12. The Fly, 1986. For years, rumors of an abandoned ending to The Fly have circulated quietly among those who attended early preview screenings, a conclusion that some say pushed the film into an even darker realm of biological horror. These witnesses claim that instead of closing on Veronica's shattering grief, the film once transitioned into a clinical aftermath set within a sealed research ward. Veronica, weak and disoriented, lay restrained on a surgical bed beneath harsh fluorescent lights. Behind a glass barrier, a team of researchers observed her vitals, speaking in detached tones that suggested she was no longer regarded as a patient, but as an unfolding anomaly. According to these accounts, her vital readings behaved erratically, generating rhythmic spikes that bore no resemblance to human patterns. A monitor displayed pulsing structures that looked disturbingly insect-like, and the lead doctor muttered, "Residual transfer is accelerating beyond containment." As Veronica's breathing shifted into rapid, stuttering bursts, the room filled with a faint, chittering resonance, at first mechanical, then unmistakably organic. Some viewers recall the camera closing in on Veronica's forearm as a faint, iridescent texture rippled beneath her skin, almost as though something were weaving itself through her bloodstream. Others describe a chilling final moment when Veronica's eyes opened, revealing a fleeting glimmer of compound-like reflection before the screen cut to black. Cronenberg has denied shooting such footage, though he acknowledges that numerous conceptual experiments were storyboarded and discarded. Editors insist no trace of an extended finale exists in the archives. Still, those who claim to have seen this coda describe it with uncanny similarity, as if each had viewed the same suppressed reel. If authentic, the ending would imply that Brundle's metamorphosis did not perish with him, but continued through Veronica in a more insidious form. If imagined, the rumor persists because the film itself plants the seed, its horrors burrowing into the viewer's mind until the line between memory and invention becomes uncertain. 13. RoboCop 1987. Behind the iconic finale where Murphy reclaims his name, rumors linger of an alternate ending that reintroduces the film's darkest theme, that autonomy may only be temporary. According to early screening attendees, the movie once continued for several unsettling moments after the boardroom confrontation. As Murphy walked away, his movements reportedly shifted smooth, at first, then increasingly mechanical. The camera, they say, cut to his internal HUD displaying cryptic system alerts. Among the flickering lines of code, witnesses claim they glimpsed fragments of a new directive labeled simply "Override Protocol." The scene allegedly moved to an OCP diagnostics lab, where engineers monitored Murphy's neural interface. One technician murmured, "His emotional loop is degrading," while another responded, "Reinstatement is already in progress." A distorted audio pulse filled the room as Murphy's voice signature registered on their screens, cold, devoid of humanity, uttering, "Awaiting command." The film then cut abruptly to black, without music or resolution. Verhoeven has dismissed such reports, though he frequently jokes about Murphy's conditional humanity, leaving room for interpretation. Editors insist no record of this alternate sequence exists, yet several projectionists from the film's earliest engagements remember handling reels with curious markings like "End Rev" or "Diagnostics Alt." If genuine, the rumored finale would subvert the film's optimism, suggesting Murphy's identity was only a temporary glitch in a larger system bent on regaining control. If entirely imagined, the idea endures because it fits so elegantly within RoboCop's world, where corporate power, machine logic, and human agency blend uneasily, and victory always feels like it came one step too late. 14. Total Recall 1990. For a film built on uncertain memory, it is fitting that Total Recall carries one of the most persistent rumors of a lost conclusion, one that resolves the film's central ambiguity with a haunting final twist. According to attendees of early preview screenings, the fading scene of Quaid and Melina on Mars once glitched, the sky's color flickering like a malfunctioning projection. The image reportedly dissolved into a sterile medical chamber where Quaid lay motionless inside a restraint cradle, electrodes covering his temples. Around him, technicians monitored unstable neural spikes. One whispered, "Recall sequence is collapsing," while another warned, "He's slipping into terminal drift." In these accounts, alarms sounded and dim red lights flooded the room as Quaid's consciousness destabilized. Technicians argued over whether the session should be terminated, though the supervising doctor allegedly insisted, "He's too deep, we might erase everything." Quaid's dream self then fragmented on the monitors, breaking apart into static clusters. The rumored ending concluded with a stark white flash, accompanied by a low, almost funereal hum. Neither Verhoeven nor Schwarzenegger confirm any memory of filming such material, though each has offered teasing remarks over the years that keep the rumor alive. Some collectors claim that regional late-night broadcasts once aired cuts with strange visual artifacts near the ending, as if remnants of an older sequence had not been completely removed. If this shadow ending ever existed, it would undercut the film's triumphant finale, revealing Quaid not as a hero reclaiming reality, but as a man lost forever within a collapsing fantasy. If not, its persistence reflects the film's hypnotic pull, its near-perfect blurring of dreamlike wish fulfillment with creeping dread. The alternate ending survives because it feels like a truth the film was preparing its viewers to suspect all along. 15. 12 Monkeys 1995. Whispers of a missing conclusion to 12 Monkeys have circulated among early preview attendees for decades, an ending that, if real, subtly reconfigures the film's entire structure. These viewers insist the movie once extended beyond the tense airport sequence, continuing into a subdued office lit by the pale glow of outdated monitors. There, an analyst reviewed looping temporal data tied to Cole's mission. A phone rang repeatedly in the background, ignored until the analyst finally answered. A calm female voice, eerily similar to Catherine Riley's, asked, "Is the loop secure?" The analyst hesitated before responding. For now, the tone suggested routine rather than revelation. Some witnesses recall the film shifting to Riley, seated alone inside a parked vehicle, her expression not mournful but resigned, as though she understood more than she revealed in the official cut. They remember her whispering something like, "It starts again," before the scene dissolved into a flurry of Cole's fragmented memories, airport corridors, running footsteps, the echo of distant alarms all overlapping as if folding into themselves. According to these recollections, the final shot was a tight frame of Rayleigh's reflection in the window, her face momentarily appearing duplicated, as if slightly misaligned in time. Gilliam's public comments on this rumor have been playful but non-committal. Editors deny that any alternate ending survived beyond early conceptual stages, yet those who maintain they saw this version describe it with unusual clarity: the sterile room, the looping data, the unsettling implication that Rayleigh was not merely reacting to events, but positioned within them. If authentic, the ending would shift Rayleigh from witness to operator, turning the story into a closed temporal mechanism orchestrated from within. If imagined, it stands as a testament to the film's psychological impact, its ability to blur recollection, causality, and destiny until every memory feels like part of a larger, unseen cycle. Bonus fact: Event Horizon 1997. Among all the whispered stories surrounding Event Horizon, one rumor stands apart: the claim that a lost concluding sequence once pushed the film's nightmare beyond the doomed ship itself. Those who insist they saw this ending describe a quiet, clinical aftermath aboard a recovery vessel, where the surviving crew members were placed in isolated medical pods. The room was sterile, lit by overhead fluorescents that flickered just enough to unsettle the atmosphere. Technicians moved between consoles, muttering to one another as they monitored neurological readouts that refused to stabilize. According to these accounts, the survivors' brainwave patterns, which should have been distinct, began to drift into synchronized rhythms, aligning in perfect unison. A technician leaned closer to the screens, noticing that the oscillations displayed not random peaks, but deliberate geometric configurations, reminiscent of the gravity drive's dimensional signatures. Another technician whispered, "It's echoing the ship," while a third warned, "Shut down the monitors before it spreads." At that moment, the lights reportedly dimmed, and a low, resonant vibration filled the chamber. Some witnesses claim the vibration was accompanied by a faint voice, layered, distant, as though speaking from several planes at once. The words were unclear, but many remember something close to, "You opened the path." One of the pods allegedly shifted as if reacting to the sound, though the occupant remained unconscious. The final image, according to those who recall it, showed all the brainwave patterns merging into a single waveform before every monitor abruptly shut off. The screen then cut to black, without music or dialogue, only the lingering hum, fading slowly. Anderson denies that such footage was part of the production, though he acknowledges enormous amounts of material were removed or lost during editing. Whether real or imagined, the rumored coda endures because it aligns so well with the film's bleak suggestion that the terror encountered aboard the Event Horizon does not remain trapped in space it follows. Across these 15 films lies a thread of mystery that refuses to be contained by official archives or studio statements. It moves in the space between what viewers remember and what history records, an unstable region where forgotten cuts, discarded reels, and phantom edits seem to linger long after they should have vanished. Each of the rumored endings described in this collection emerges from that same liminal zone, too specific to dismiss, yet too unverified to confirm. Together, they form a kind of secret cinematic atlas, mapping out the places where film intersects with memory and shadows. What binds all these accounts together is not proof, but resonance. Each rumored ending feels plausible within its respective film, so much so that memory and imagination easily intertwine. Whether these sequences were truly screened, briefly circulated, or merely misremembered, their persistence reveals the unique power of science fiction to inhabit the spaces between what is shown and what is sensed. The shadow cuts remind us that cinema is not only the product preserved in vaults or encoded on discs, it is also the impressions that linger, distort, and recombine within those who experience it. Somewhere between the official ending and the remembered one lies a truth that no archive can verify, but no witness can forget.